right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Brad Wolf. I'm the executive director and of Reimagine, which, if you don't know or you do, just again, we are helping people face loss, adversity, and mortality, and channel the hardest parts of life into meaning and growth and action with the idea that we can both heal ourselves and heal the world simultaneously. Um, and so I am deeply honored today to welcome you to today's transformative session. Let's take action, discovering your service path. Before we dive in, I do want to offer some quick housekeeping notes. If you don't have one handy, please go grab a pen and some paper. We'll be engaging in reflective exercises that might prompt you to jot down your thoughts. So that'll be very helpful, rather, a pen and paper. And then, yeah, let's get this chat going. We'd love to hear what brought you here and where you're zooming in from today. Our guests are both in Europe, so we have a very international crew today, and I can't wait to introduce them. So a little bit more background though. As part of our enlightening series, Transforming Adversity into Acts of Service, we've been delving into the idea that within adversity lies the seeds of positive change. And those seeds grow into acts of service nourished by our shared stories and also by mutual support. Today, we are graced by the presence of two incredible individuals who embody this very transformation. First, we have Julian Pistone, an esteemed advisor, keynote speaker, and Buddhist practitioner. He has a decade of rich experience at Google, where he led well-being initiatives spanning multiple continents. Julian's mission revolves around inspiring authenticity and purpose-driven leadership. Whether he's podcasting about courage or weaving insights from Buddhist philosophy, Julian's ultimate goal is to help us align with our true calling. And joining Julian today is Sabina de Duonni, excuse me. And this is what I like. I know they've done events together before, but we have Pistone and Duonni. It's like the perfect brand tag team. Pistone and Duonni with us today. Sabina is an advocate for well-being and authentic living. Sabina embarked on her journey of self-discovery after confronting life's many challenges. Blending her academic foundation in psychology and neuroscience with her professional forays into film, business, and technology, Sabina discovered the magic of aligning passion with purpose. Today, she ardently guides others on this path, showing them how to unearth their potential and make a meaningful impact. And so with guides like Julian and Sabina, we are bound really here to unearth our own paths to service, turning life's adversities into our greatest strengths. And so let's take this moment to open our minds, share our experiences, and together, let's reimagine what's possible. And so with that, let's dive in. Pistone and Duonni, take it away.
We might steal that with pride. I've never thought of that, Brad.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. It's great seeing people joining. What an honor to be here with you. Some of you are here today because you are growing through something challenging, and some of you are holding space for someone else's grief. You may be experiencing loss of a loved one, loss of an identity, mourning the past or desired future. And I was saying to Julian earlier today, we're on this journey with you. So how can we compassionately be with that grief, make sense of it, integrate it into our lives, into who we choose to be, so that we can choose evolution over stagnation, and so we can choose service to self and service to others over isolation. And it is a tender space. So I work a lot with somatic. So I just want to take some time to just settle into this experience. So in the somatic world, we call this orienting. So it's an arrival. It's an adjustment from the previous moment to the present one. And we often forget how important it is to truly arrive somewhere, right? We were doing a tech check and maybe we're coming from a meeting. So let us not only tell our bodies that we're in this session together, but show our bodies that this is new and this is safe. So let us orient. So just begin feeling the support under you. Maybe it's the cushion. Maybe there's a chair, rest behind you. Mine kind of sinks back a little bit. Notice what material it is. And as you settle into that support, just gently glide your eyes from one side of the room or the space that supports you to the other. Maybe even turning behind you. Just showing yourself that you're here. Maybe sensing the temperature of the room. I might actually put the AC on. I feel myself getting a little warm. So just, yeah, maybe noticing where the light comes in from. Just giving your system the time and space to show that we are here now with the rest of us in the supportive container created by Reimagine. And in the space that holds you, might you notice something that feels resourceful? So good and nourishing. I'm actually in a child's room, so it feels kind of like tender and sweet. I see all these like little stuffed animals. So what tells you that what you've kind of come across with your eyes is resourceful? So find your resource. And as you identify it, sense what tells you that it's resourceful. So is it that your breath deepened or you smiled a little bit? And know that in any moment that you can come back to that resource as an anchor, because this is difficult work, right? So slowly bringing your eyes to the screen that connects us with the others that are here in honor of themselves and in respect of the grief that they're growing through or supporting even. And we're going to be spending the next hour and a half together exploring this tender yet powerful topic of courage. So I invite you to be gentle with yourself, grab a glass of water, a blanket, or take a break. You know, it's not easy, as I said, but we hope that it will be rewarding. And my dear friend Julian and I, we're here today to share some of the learnings with you. So we've been friends and colleagues for almost a decade now. And what truly blossomed our friendship was this shared sense of grief, really, of a loved one. And later, the grief that comes with physical pain, with chronic pain, with loss of an identity. And with time and tears and together, we now run a death awareness retreat called Courage, a journey of making sense of adversity and death and how that can be turned into service. And our mission really is to reverse engineer the biggest regret of the dying, which is to not have lived a life that was true to ourselves. So authenticity is key. It's not an easy path, but we believe it's the only path, the courageous one. And you know, Julian and I were both Italian, and you know, we proudly say courage comes from the Latin word cor, right? The heart. So to be courageous is to follow the path of the heart. So we hope to ignite a little bit of that bravery in you today and to bring that forth in service of others. So you'll be with Julian for the next 35 minutes or so, and then we'll meet again where I'll bring you through a practice of somatic self-inquiry and a remembrance of this courage. So over to you, Jules, and I will see you afterwards.
Sabi, thank you. First test. Can everyone hear me? Good stuff. So it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be doing this with my friend Sabina. It's an honor to be at a Reimagine event. And to start this off, I'd like to show you something really beautiful. So check this out. So I don't know if anyone knows what this is or what this is called, but this is a sterling murmuration. And this is when tens of thousands of birds come together and make these astonishing shapes. Now, I think I've only been lucky enough to see this twice in my lifetime. Once when I was actually with Sabina in Ireland. I don't know if any one of you has been lucky enough to see one. And I'm sure you'll agree that it is just incredible what nature can do when it comes together. But anyway, these murmurations, they kind of got me thinking, and they got me thinking because they kind of remind me of how we perceive from the outside courageous people. You know, the people that we look up to, whatever it's sports stars or, you know, the courageous colleague. We kind of from the outside think they're kind of parts of this, you know, beautiful motion that somehow nature just intended. And kind of this got me thinking even more. And then I thought, what is it if I actually was with them? You know, and just imagine if you were just there, you know, with them, what is it that you would actually see? And actually what you probably would see is lots of tiny little birds flapping about like crazy, probably shitting themselves, just trying to survive in that moment. Now, there's one thing that anyone on this call has in common, no matter where we have dialed from, whether it's me from Munich, Sabina from Italy, or wherever parts of the world you're zooming in from. There's one thing that we all have in common here, and that is that we are all, like these birds, beautiful, and more often than not, scared. And so what I'd like you to do is to think about the fact that, again, the commonality that we have in this group is that we all not just have gone through difficulties, but I know that some of you right now, as I'm speaking to the audience, are going through some very difficult situations right now in this moment. I know that some of you have some difficult conversations coming up. I know that some of you have recently dealt with the loss of a loved one. I know some of you are caretaking for people. I know some of you are dealing with physical illness or mental health challenges, whether it's anxiety, depression, stress. And I know that some of you have recently lost a relationship or have to leave a relationship. I know some of the people have dialed in today. And I want you to think back right now, not necessarily something that happened recently, but maybe we go back a few years and we think about that scary moment that we've been through and try and think about what was that thing that has pulled you through. And I'm sure that you agree with me that at the core of it lies courage. And so over the next probably half an hour or so, what we'll do is we'll delve into the topic together. We'll discover what courage is, how you nurture it, and how brave we actually have been, and how that can help us move through any scary situation moving forward. And I think you'll find some clues in the story that I'm about to share with you. Now, I know that all of us have one special person, a hero, someone that we really look up to. This is mine. This is my number one hero. You might not have heard of him. His name is Salvatore, also known by his nickname Totò. And Salvatore's story takes place in Sicily. So I don't know if anyone has been to Sicily. It's the big island at the boot of Italy. And this is I would say probably one of the most captivating places in the world, with absolute, you know, these incredible cultural treasures and these endless orange groves which just intoxicate your senses, and this breathtaking natural wealth. But Sicily is also a big land of contrast. It's long been one of the poorest regions in Europe, and it's been ripped apart by violence because the Sicilian mafia between the 1950s and the 1990s murdered thousands of individuals. Literally anyone that went against them. And for decades, the Sicilian mafia literally ranked as the most powerful organization in the world. But now I want to take you back in time, again, back into the 50s, so I can share a bit more about my hero, Salvatore. And this is how he would have grown up. And this is footage from the 50s, from the town where Salvatore was born, Riesi, where he was born and where he grew up. And Riesi really was known for two things. One, its mines, in particular its sulfur mines, and the mafia. Salvatore had a happy childhood. He grows up with a family, with a caring family with strong values like integrity and respect and hard work. But many of the kids that he plays with, they're not as lucky as him because they have to work in sulfur mines in Riesi. And these are places where working conditions are brutal, degrading, and very dangerous. This is a photo that was taken at the entrance of one of the mines. It says, prima doveri poi diritti. First your obligations, and then only your rights. And once the sulfur gets picked out of these dark caves, children between the ages of 6 and 10 would carry out these rocks. And a boy would carry a load of rocks, typically weighing about 80 kilograms, which I think is around 180 pounds, which is about, anyway, imagine twice the average weight of a child that age. And he would spend the entire day inside the burning heat of these caves, bringing the fumes, the unbearable stench, and with the rocks crushing his weak back and the stone piercing into his feet, and naked and surrounded by darkness and a lot of fear of the adult workers who often mistreated these young boys in the alley, fear that at any point from these tunnels could come a roar of fire and that everything around them could explode. Child slavery went unpunished in these regions for decades. And for decades, the entire town was covered up in a veil of silence. This is mafia godfather, Giuseppe Di Cristina. Just like Salvatore, he was born and grew up in Riesi. Di Cristina was a murdering psychopath. He controlled the drug trade between the Sicilian mafia and the United States. But he also sat on the mining authorities, on the Sicilian mining authorities, meaning that during these times, you wouldn't speak negatively about the mines, and you certainly wouldn't talk about the mafia. And as Salvatore grows up, he develops an interest, a passion, almost like an urge to speak about what he witnesses in his town. And he gets involved in politics. And at the age of only 17, he's a boy, he gets asked to speak at a big national assembly, which he wants to use to talk about the mistreatment, but he's warned not to. He's repeatedly told, Salvatore, come on, we have other bigger problems in Sicily. Don't talk about the mines, just don't talk about the mines. And Salvatore gets to the conference and looks out on a sea of thousands of people. He takes the microphone, his hand is shaking. He's, of course, afraid. And despite the warnings, he decides to speak up. He speaks up about the oppression. He speaks up about the mines, and he mentions the mafia. He gets roaring applause, but when he travels back home, a car bomb explodes and almost kills him and his political mentor. Now, speaking up against the mafia obviously has its risks. It means you and your entire family are now a target, and so to protect himself and his loved ones, Salvatore vanishes. And years after his disappearance, his family received this photograph from a small town in Germany where he migrated to. And he never returned to live in Sicily ever again. So you can imagine what Salvatore must have been feeling and how he felt to have left everything behind, everyone that he loved, almost actually without being able to give any explanation whatsoever. And imagine what must have gone through his mind at the time. And probably the question is, was it worth it? Was this worth it? And he knew about the risk. And obviously he knew that speaking up could mean risking his life. And yet he decided to do it anyway. There's a saying in Latin, fortune favors the brave, and what Salvatore didn't know was that fortune eventually favored him. Because when we have the courage to follow our inner soul voice, then life really is always in our favor. And thanks to the German that he's picked up as an immigrant, years later, he can use the same German to pick up a young, beautiful medical student from Austria. Austria is also where you speak German. And they fall madly, madly in love and decide to get married shortly after. They have a family. And fast forward a few decades, and Salvatore is now on his deathbed, and he is sharing this exact same story, the same story I've just shared with you with his 28-year-old son, just moments before they have to say goodbye to each other forever. That 20-year-old son was me. Salvatore was my father. He'd always kept this story a secret because he wants to protect the people around him. Sabina already mentioned it. The word courage comes in its Latin root from cor, corazón in Spanish, cœur in French, coraggio, cuore in Italian. My father had a huge heart, and his legacy led to a personal journey of mine and almost this obsession of wanting to understand the mechanics of courage. And what I discovered, it not only surprised me, it really changed the paradigm of what courage is. And today I really feel privileged. I feel privileged to be able to share with you what I've learned. Now, there's an important quote that I want to share with you. I think everyone has their one important big quote. This is mine. And it's by Aristotle, because Aristotle, he described courage like a craft. And here's the quote. He wrote, "We become builders by buildings. We become builders by buildings, and we become harpists by playing the harp. And so similarly then, we become brave by doing brave actions." And what I've learned, that the first step to understanding how you build this bravery, how you build these brave actions, is actually to understand what prevents us from doing these brave actions in the first place. And that is, it always is, fear. But fear isn't the enemy here. In fact, the Spartans, probably or arguably the most powerful or most strongest military force in history, they revered fear. They even built temples around fear. And they believed that fear was not an absence of courage. On the contrary, they believed that fear was a total presence. Sorry, that courage was a total presence of fear, but then with the ability to face it. Probably that same total presence that I know many of you have experienced when you're sitting next to someone that is passing away. So that total presence of fear and then the ability to face it, that's courage. I also learned that courage isn't a character trait that some of us have and others don't. It's a virtue. And as the poet Maya Angelou called it, courage is the most important virtue of them all, because without courage, she said, you cannot really practice any other virtue consistently. Now, I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but in my family, vulnerability wasn't quite a thing. So it was no Brené Brown. My father, I don't think, ever showed any sign of vulnerability whatsoever. And so I don't know who resonates with this. I kind of grew up thinking either I am brave or I'm not. Either I'm courageous or I'm a coward. In other words, either I've got it or I don't. And think about when you were kids, maybe, right? Think about when, I don't know, you had a movie star or a parent, anyone you would look up and see as really brave. Did you somehow think that they were invincible to fear? Because in my imagination, my father was. I didn't even think that fear was even part of his vocabulary. And of course, what I learned is that this is total nonsense, because we usually believe, just like with the murmurations, that from the outside, we believe that these brave people have no fear. And of course, they do have fear. Every human being has fear. The difference is that brave people not only feel it, but they're intimate with it. The Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron, which I'm sure many of you know, and if you don't know her book, When Things Fall Apart, I strongly recommend reading it. Pema says that it's actually fear that makes you courageous. It's the vanguard to courage. There cannot be courage without fear. And when things fall apart, and you know what I'm talking about because you've all experienced it, when your back is against the wall, that, she says, that exactly is when courage is born. Now, let me quickly tell you what happened to me. 5 years ago, I was with Sabi. We used to live, we were pretty much neighbors. I had a severe spine injury, and this led to nerve damage, which that type of injury has pain which is comparable, like the pain level is comparable to childbirth. And I had, despite the morphine and despite the Oxycontin and whatever I was taking, the pain didn't really stop because, it's nerve pain. And every day it felt like someone was literally drilling into my back. And then a paralysis kicked in, and then I faced the risk of quadriplegia and then of death. And of course, I was really afraid. I was afraid that my dreams were evaporating. I was afraid of suddenly facing my own mortality. And I was afraid to look my mother in the eyes, knowing how much pain this was causing her. And during my third surgeries, the surgeons had to open my back up again. And unlike what they had initially prognosed, it turned out that the condition was reversible. So I was very lucky. My recovery was long, but I had people like Sabina and my family who were extremely close to me. And I slowly started learning how to walk and socialize. And just when I thought the marathon was over, boom, I get hit with another sledgehammer. I get diagnosed with ME/CFS. For those who don't know the illness, it's something that often comes after extended period of physical and emotional trauma. And it's when you start feeling so extremely fatigued that any small activity becomes almost intolerable. So going to the toilet becomes a marathon. Watching television, spending time with your family becomes almost agonizing. And it's really, really scary because it has no cure. And they tell you that only 5% make a full recovery. Many remain bedridden for years, sometimes even for life. And at this stage, I never felt so helpless. But going back to Pema, when your back is against the wall, and again, I know exactly that you know what I'm talking about. When your back is against the wall, that's when you start fighting like there's no tomorrow, and that's when you start digging in and you start choosing. You choose courage, and you become intimate with your own fear. And after 2 years, I can say that I'm part of those 5%, and I get to be with you. I get to give a talk at Reimagine with one of my closest friends, and this not makes me, it doesn't just make me incredibly proud. It's one of the greatest gifts that I could ever imagine. And life, as they say, it's not just a dress rehearsal. It's now, and it's so precious. And there's 3 principles that I took away from this experience that have helped me become braver, and I hope that by sharing them with you, I hope some of them will help you too. The first principle that I took away is that the adversity that we all face along the way makes the end destination even more glorious. And Malcolm X, he puts it in a very beautiful way. He says, there is no better teacher than pain, he says. There is no better teacher than adversity. Every loss, every defeat, every heartbreak, he said, contains its own seed, its own lesson on how to improve. And there's a form of Japanese art called kintsugi, where kintsugi masters, they repair broken plates and cups and bowls, and they put them back together, but they don't fix them back to their original state. What they do is they take the broken pieces and they mix them with golden lacquer and sometimes silver and platinum, and they turn what was once broken into something even better and something even more beautiful. And the result are these intricate veins and really beautiful irregular lines that are not seen as flaws. They're not seen as flaws. They are, they really, kintsugi really was invented to turn cracks into something even more beautiful. Just like we can turn cracks and our broken pieces into something more beautiful. Adversity is unavoidable. There's one of the core Buddhist principles: life is dukkha, life is suffering, life is pain, and yes, it sucks. And I also, and this is just my personal opinion, don't necessarily believe that it is adversity that builds character. I personally believe that Adversity does something even greater. It reveals your character. And there's a phrase by Jesse Burton which goes, in suffering we find our truest selves. And so our kintsugi, our personal kintsugi, is a bit like this. It's not afterwards we're not this polished original version that we were. And with those cracks, we are the more authentic version, the more human version, the more vulnerable version, the more courageous version. And so think about now, what are some of the things that have broken in your lives? And maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was a marriage that broke apart. Maybe it was the life dreams you once had with someone that then passed. Maybe it was your health. And now think, what was your personal kintsugi? And how has it revealed your courage? The second principle that I want to share with you is that we don't just step up for us, we really step up for others. And here I would like to introduce you to another one of my heroes, Claudia. Claudia was the hospice nurse that accompanied us during my father's last months. 10 years later, I can say that we're still friends. And I recently told Claudia that she's a true role model for me. And I told her that I honor the way that she has dedicated her entire career. And for context, a year ago left my corporate career. And I said that I've told her that she really has been a true role model for me, for the fact that she dedicates her entire work to serving others. And how much I admire that, every day she chooses to support people in literally their most vulnerable moment, which is their death. And it's not just the patients, but the family members who then absorb her courage and are thus able to face insane fear. And I told her just how grateful I am to her and all the palliative care professionals, because without them, I honestly do not think how me nor my family would have been able to cope. And I told her how much, and maybe people can relate to this, but I told her how much her presence gave us peace and bravery, and how this has allowed us to be there for our father and also for ourselves with so much intimacy and with so much tenderness and with so much presence, despite the insane and unbelievable amount of fear that we were experiencing. And I had the immense fortune to be with my father when he had his last breaths. And I actually, without going into details, but it hadn't been, I lived abroad at the time, and it hadn't been, this would not have happened had it not been for Claudia. In Zen Buddhism, there's a principle called the dana of fearlessness, dana meaning gift. And in Zen Buddhism, the dana of fearlessness is the highest and greatest level of generosity one can give. And recently, I also asked Claudia, do you realize just how courageous you are? And do you know what she responded to me? She said, no, I don't see it. I don't see it because this is just what I do. This is what I do. This is my vocation. I do it for others. And I know Claudia is or will be watching this. And so ciao, Claudia. Grazie, thank you. And also thank you to all the palliative care professionals for the dana of fearlessness, for the dana of giving others so much courage on their path. Now, the word hero in its Latin root comes from servo, servant. Servant to something greater than yourself. And fear will always ask, what if? What if this happens? What if that happens? And a hero like Claudia doesn't think about that, because a hero focuses on others. There's a passage from the American poet Henry Longfellow, which I love, which goes, lives of great men and women all remind us that our lives of how our lives can be sublime, and how departing, leaving, can basically leave this trail of these footprints of the sand of time. But then ask yourself, what's the point of leaving these footprints? And well, the point is you leave a trail. Most of our brave ancestors are gone now, and despite this, doesn't their example and their courage come and serve us in our most difficult moments? Heroes don't just make an impact on others, they make others proud. They infuse others with courage long, long after they're gone. They leave a trail. So, maybe take a second to think, who are the people that left the trail in your life? And how will you leave a trail of bravery? How will you make others braver? And that's the third and last principle. Now, to get over fear, I've learned, it's very simple. It's only one thing you can do. You have to go. This photograph was taken during our last vacation. The one in the middle is my amazing mom, called Andrea. I recently found out, actually, Andrea in, I think, Old Greek means courage as well. And my dad and I, during my teenage years, had a very difficult relationship. I have ADHD. He had no clue what it was. He was a very lovable and also very strict man. And so the two things obviously clashed significantly, and we really didn't really understand each other. Fortunately, in his last years, we became very close. But he used to have this habit of giving me all this unsolicited advice when I was a teenager, and I used to detest it. But if there was one piece of advice that really, really stuck with me, it was this. Testa giù e vai. Put your head down and just go. And there's one fellow who did just that, Mahmoud Gassama. And I took this example from a book called Courage by Ryan Holiday. Again, if anyone doesn't know the book, I would strongly recommend reading it. Gassama is, at the time, we're talking about 2018, he's in France. He's a illegal immigrant, actually, from West Africa, from Mali. He's 22 years old. He's walking the streets of Paris, and he sees this horrific scene. There's a 4-year-old who falls off the 6th floor of a balcony and is clinging 2 floors down on the rail with his tiny hands, and is about to fall down. And everyone is, everyone's shouting and is in total despair. And Gassama, he starts running towards the building. And let me show you what he does next. You hear the noise, by the way? Can you hear the signal?
On nous a la spectacle. La tête de ma mère, je pète à cap. Allez, vas-y. Ouais. Bravo. Là, le score.
He later told the interviewers, and this is key, if you try to think too long, if you weigh up your options for too long, whether you go or whether you don't go, you never go. And then they asked him, where did you learn to climb? And his response was, I never tried it before because there are no trees in my country, Mali. I don't know. I just go. Testa giù e vai. And what the world didn't know when this video went viral is that Gassama had trained for this moment, because he, as a teenager, decided to leave Mali and cross the Sahara and risk his life in search for opportunity. He faced imprisonment, he faced torture in Libya. He then braves the Mediterranean Sea on an unsafe boat and ends up, of all places, in my father's homeland, in a refugee camp in Sicily. And just as my dad and the millions of immigrants and refugees around the world, leaving your land, leaving your family, leaving everything behind to face prejudice and uncertainty and to risk it all for the bleak hope of a better future, well, I'm sure you agree with me that may well be one of the most courageous things that a human being can do. Now, remember Aristotle, right? We become brave by doing brave actions. Gassama had a long history of brave actions that then made him prepared. And what I've learned is that the opposite of courage is not cowardice. The opposite of courage is inaction. In other words, the failure to act. And therefore, courage is a choice. Courage is a habit, and courage must be trained, because how do we expect to do the big things that really, really freaking scare us if we even haven't tried and practiced the small ones? Now, being a hero doesn't require climbing buildings. What it really requires is cultivating small, brave actions in our daily lives. And it's really that sum total of all the small, brave actions that we choose to do next. And we all in this session today, I believe, have even the power, the privilege, I would say, to impact the lives of those around us. And we all know how precious life is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in a Reimagine event. And so today, as we gather, I think we do so to do important work that the world is counting on. Because I believe that we, the people who have lost someone in our lives, the people who are grieving, we palliative care professionals and death doulas and therapists, we mothers and fathers and members of our community, we have a responsibility. And we have a responsibility to step forward and share our stories. And when others are hesitant, we have a responsibility to choose courage, even when we are afraid. And if we don't do so, I think we deprive the world of something. Then what is the benefit? Why should we even think of doing so? And I think the reward is we do so because we role model bravery, really to infuse others, the people around us, with courage. We do so to make our ancestors proud, to make our families proud, to make our future generations proud, and to make the world a better place. And to do so, it doesn't require superhuman acts. It does not. Courage can mean getting up in the morning when you're grieving, getting up into the world when you are depressed is courage. Asking for help is courage. Deciding to become a parent is incredibly courageous. Leaving a romantic relationship or a job that isn't working anymore is courageous. Saying I love you, knowing your heart might get broken, is courageous. Supporting a terminal patient, supporting the family is immense, immense courage. Sitting next to a person that you love so much that is dying is ultimate courage. And so everybody here, everyone, has gone to bed one night or another with fear or despair or grief, and yet each one of us has arisen somehow to face what we had to face with bravery. Mighty bravery that we sometimes didn't even know we had inside of us. This was the last picture that I took with my dad. Our relationship became a lot better in our last years. In fact, he wasn't just a dad for me. He became a friend. He became a confidant. And this time I asked him for advice. And I asked him, Papi, how can I become a good father? And he was really struggling to speak. And he said, it's not that difficult. Still not quite sure I believe that statement. But he said, it's not that difficult. He said, believe in yourself the way that I believe in you. He said, find someone, find a partner like your mother that has you back, and then love her unconditionally. And then he said, do not have big regrets. And what my father taught me is that regret really is the cost of inaction. It's the cost of the failure to act. It's the cost of choosing the cautious path versus the risky path. It's the cost of choosing what others expect of me versus what my heart is calling me to do. It's the cost of choosing fear over courage, which is a heavy cost that I personally do not want to live at the end of my lifetime. And to minimize big regrets, I think there's a very simple formula. The more courage we have, the more our life will expand. And so the next time that you have the opportunity to face something that is uncomfortable and scary, next time that you feel that knot in your stomach, feel its presence, be intimate with that fear, and then just go. And remember that in that moment, big or small, it's just like what Pema said. That is when you train the muscle. That is when courage is born. And so choose courage because it will allow you to go places and do things that otherwise would be completely denied to you. Choose courage and you'll see beauty that otherwise would have never happened. Choose courage and you leave a trail in the sand of time forever. And so to finish off, if there's one thing that I want to leave you with from everything I said, if there's one thing I would love you to remember and take away, it's this. You have all been courageous. Many, many, many times. That's what's brought you here. So don't forget, we have all been heroes. We just sometimes forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. I am seeing lots of gratitude in the chat. Yeah, taking a minute just to take that in. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And you know, as I listen and see all of these incredible illustrations of courage, there's this inspiration, and I, at the same time, so inspired, and I notice this kind of familiar voice in the background saying, wow, these people are so brave. And I've done a lot of work, and we've spoken at length to really, you know, remember that I am brave too. We are brave too, and sometimes we forget. And for me, that wasn't always the case. In the past, I didn't particularly think that I was courageous. My late brother, however, you know, in my mind, he was brave. He was born with a congenital condition. It made his life, in my mind, more difficult than mine. You know, he used a wheelchair. He struggled with eye-hand coordination, and he was often in the hospital. Yet he lived a joyful and fulfilling life, accepting what was, and he definitely left a trail behind for me. And he was stoic, you know, in the way he navigated the obstacles that he faced. So for me, it was like I was nowhere near as brave as him. However, what I learned through my own adversities is that I too am courageous. And despite not having had his experiences or the experiences that we've just seen, these grandiose, you know, illustrations, I had my own, and they were brave too, right? I kept going despite being tired and afraid. That's courage. And I've walked away when I didn't want to, because I felt that my heart, my courage said that it was the best for me. I said yes and just went for it, right? Just go despite feeling unprepared. That's courage. So let us kind of challenge our own perceived bravery and be more aware that there, you know, this remembrance is something that we really need to practice, as Julian said. And, you know, we become more courageous by practicing these small acts, right? Courage begets courage, not only for yourself, but for others. It's really a muscle that needs to be flexed. And the first step is to really turn towards your personal bravery and say, I am too courageous. So what I'd like to do is take you through a short meditation-like exercise to really connect with those sensations. So Please remember to explore this exercise in a way that feels tolerable. So to stay resourced and to always prioritize your well-being. So really sensing into the pace that feels like a growth edge and not overwhelm. So just take a deep breath as we settle. I'm going to take about 8 minutes or so just to go back. And taking a deep breath and really holding it at the top, just stimulating the vagus nerve and just releasing, and again settling and transitioning back to this space. And again, expanding your belly like a Buddha, the top holding and releasing and really letting yourself settle. And now with a stance of curiosity and compassion towards yourself, bringing up a memory or an experience from a previous phase in your life. So something from some time ago where you felt courageous. So where you felt that fear and moved forward in honor of a bigger purpose. Choosing something that made you courageous enough to feel that sense of self-love and satisfaction, growth, and that trust in yourself. And when you have that memory, really try to make it vivid in your mind's eye. Where were you? And feel the sensations, leaning into kind of that physiological sensation, not away from it. And visualize the moment as best as you can. Try not to judge any aspect of the experience. And now scanning your body gently from head to toe and toe to head, noticing the visceral sensations of that courage. So the fear and the action of forward movement for something that was a noble purpose, a mission, a goal. And what's happening inside of your body that lets you know that you're experiencing courage? What lets you know that you're afraid and that you're moving forward? Can you notice a sensation or a word that describes it? Maybe expansion, maybe your body moving forward or upwards. Just taking a moment to let your body emerge from that sensation. There's no wrong way of doing this, no pressure, just patience. And stay with that, just breathing deeply, sensing it on a cellular level. And from a grounded place, paying attention to the way in which it arises and how it changes or shifts. And as you stay with it, notice maybe a voice coming from that place of courage, maybe an image of what that courage wants to do or say. And see if you notice an impulse or if it has a voice, and listening without judgment. We're just getting to know the voice of courage, just giving yourself the permission to express what it might have to say. And if any anxiety or criticism comes up, just asking it to kind of step to the side and letting you work with the courage, noticing what happens. And if you can imagine what your courage needs to do to be remembered by you, to be seen, to come out, to keep going. Using the imagination until it feels like a sense of being done, as though something has shifted or changed. Maybe noticing any emotions that arise in the wake of courage. And keep breathing. You're doing great. And now taking a few deep breaths and maybe giving yourself a word of affirmation, maybe a hug, a gentle touch. Being here is courageous. It is not if we are, but how we access it. Maybe placing a hand on your heart or on your belly and just gently coming back to the room. Well done. Now we're going to take about 5 minutes to reflect individually. And then we're going to spend some time in breakout rooms with a partner where you'll share for 5 minutes each some reflections. So if we can put the questions on the screen, I think, Misha, you have that. Really just taking a moment as we transition from the somatic experience to the reflection. Taking your pen and paper. So when in the past time ago have you been courageous? So maybe sensing the memory or sensation that came up for you and writing down, I am courageous because. And what did that courage teach you? That one from the past that you might have just connected with. What words of wisdom does it have for you now? And how might your courage serve others? Your loved ones, your community, others may be going through the same experience as you are. So we're going to take about 5 minutes, so 2 past the hour, just to reflect, so we can put on a piece of music. This is an individual exercise, and after 5 minutes, you'll break out into a room. If you're in a room with somebody that isn't responding, just come back to the main room and you'll be resettled into another room. So just take 5 minutes, if we could put on the music, and just reflect on your own, on what came up. All right, so I think we're ready for our breakout rooms. So just share with your partner. Maybe one person can go first and the other person can go next, sharing 5 minutes each and just asking to be present and attentive. And we'll see you back here at 12 past the hour. Oh, it's so lovely seeing you all, seeing some faces. Thank you. I hope it was useful to share. Yeah, if anybody wants to actually share, I think we'll probably go over 1 or 2 minutes. I hope that's okay for everybody. I really would love to hear how that was sharing, or if anything unexpected came up. I would love to, if you want to write in the chat or just unmute yourself, it'd be great to hear your voices.
I think we're just getting some folks back, so you might want to repeat some of that. I'm seeing a rush of goodness into the room.
Oh, yes. I was just saying that it's so nice to see your faces. Hi, everyone. Oh, yes, this is good. So great. I hope that was nourishing, that it was, it was good to share. I would love to hear anything that came up, how it was to share with somebody that you might not know. We'll probably go over a few minutes from quarter past, but I would love to hear over chat or unmute yourself how that was for you.
Who's going to be the courageous first person?
I don't necessarily feel a need to share about my share, but I just want to say thank you for your sharing the story. And I'm sorry I wasn't on video the whole time, but I was holding a newborn, so I was needing to move and stuff like that. I didn't want to be a distraction, but it was a beautiful story, Julian and Sabina. Thank you for the meditation. I really got a lot out of that.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you,
means
Ryan.
a lot. Thank you.
All right. Well, somebody said the message came through of like, yeah, that was bravery. And that was, if that's the only thing you leave this session with, of a remembrance of your own bravery, then we've done our job, Julian. And, courage can be those big moments like Gassama climbing the building, right, and saving a child. And it can look like small actions, like what Julian said, getting up in the morning when everything is telling you there's just no point. And it is through those brave micro moments that we become courageous. And we often prepare for those bigger acts of courage, possibly the very courage you may be seeking right now. And do not estimate the power of those small courageous acts. And I think with that, I'd like to make to offer an invitation a ritual of sorts that is kind of something that Julian and I practice as we go through our own journeys of courage. And they're called glimmers, so glimmers of courage. And I call them glimmers because a glimmer is like a faint sign or a feeling, a quality, especially a desirable one. And today, I was thinking, what's my glimmer? Like, I don't have one. And, all this criticism came up. And actually for me, it was, forgoing a request to be someplace that would have taken a lot of energy from me. And for me, that is courage, because it's recognizing the importance of me saying no and recognizing the importance of rest. And so remembering these little moments where you say no, or you acknowledge the power of rest, they're not so little. It's cultivating that every single day. So as we kind of come to a close, I invite you to not only look back at the courage that you had some time ago, where you say, yeah, actually, that was brave, as fuel for your forward motion, but to really practice noticing your weekly or even your daily glimmers of courage today, tomorrow, and the day after, and to recognize that the courage you have shown in the past, it is within you, acknowledging that and choosing to practice it every day, right? Harpists become harpists by playing the harp, and we become courageous by those little brave micro moments for yourself and for others. So thank you, everybody. It's been an honor to be here with you today.
So I just want to say, chime in and say thank you so much to Julian and Sabina. Our deepest gratitude. The wisdom and insights you provided us with just give us such a rich understanding of how to transform adversity into courage, into service. And I want to also point out, how brave you both are, and how courageous you have been to show up in this space with people you don't know, and to offer storytelling about your own life and about your own internal wisdom that comes up for you. It takes a lot of courage to share that with others. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us about how much, how transformative sharing our stories can be. When we think about in our own internal monologue, that it's so humanizing. We all have these experiences, but we, maybe we don't think we can be the next Julian and Sarah in such a beautiful way. But just sharing those stories, to people in your life, I just want to invite everyone to be able to open up into your own storytelling about your experiences because of courage, because those help other people. And in telling them yourself, it's powerful for you to step into that moment of bravery. So it has this beautiful virtuous cycle of really helping heal ourselves by offering us an example of being courageous, and then healing others by inviting them in to model that behavior. So with that in mind, I also want to mention that if you want to take a deeper dive into Sabina's work and teachings, I really encourage you to visit her website, and maybe Misha, you can post the link. Okay, fabulous. There's some links for Sabina, and also Julian, who recently had a really enlightening conversation with Jose Maria Bernal, Latin America's most renowned transpersonal psychologist. And they discuss the intersections of courage, psychedelics, and death. And that's a must watch. So you can find Julian's interview on YouTube and Spotify. I think those links are there as well. And if you're curious, about Sabina and Julian's retreat offerings, there's a link there for Retreated. So it sounds like an amazing experience that I myself want to participate in, and our whole Reimagine community should check out. Now, Misha, if you want to post up a little slide here, we look forward to what's coming up. Reimagine has something special on the way. On September 6th, we invite you to our virtual candlelight vigil, which is our monthly opportunity to honor our loved ones, to reflect on transformation, and to hold space for grief. And this coming September 6th, we'll be joined by the exceptional Wendy McNaughton and Lady Bird Morgan and Rachel Kodanaz. It's not just a vigil, it's also a deep dive into shared human experiences. and the intersection of arts and entertainment and literature and so much more. So that's going to be a very powerful experience to invite you all toward. And then finally, as we turn the page to next month, we're moving out of this theme of service and into this theme of aging as grief, aging as growth. Because we live in a culture, that's obviously youth obsessed, often sidelining the elderly, and what it does even mean as we age. We're all aging all the time and becoming, we're all aging. So as age isn't merely just a number, and in the face of adversities and challenges that aging brings, there's also unspoken gifts and untold stories of strength and vitality and wonder through that process. And so through the guidance from a myriad of voices, healers, artists, social entrepreneurs, and activists, we'll embark on a journey to really perceive aging not only as an inevitable challenge, but also as a source of newfound wisdom. So mark your calendars for our first event under this theme. That's our Let's Learn event, What is Elderhood, on the 13th. And then you can join us as we challenge and redefine notions of aging and elderhood throughout the entire series. And so, yeah, register now. And then to our dear community, I want to just say to all of you, your engagement really is making all the difference. These free programs that we host at Reimagine are only possible thanks to your support. So if you're seeking more ways to get involved, or you simply wish to support this mission and this work, please visit letsreimagine.org. And so again, want to really thank everybody here. It's been such a special group, and those of you who made it through the exercise, I know a number of folks had to hop off, but it's really always special to see who goes through the experience of being with one another and connecting and opening up and sharing. Your bravery is witnessed in this space. And thanks again, Sabina and Julian, and really all of you. Julian, you want to have a last word as we bounce out? And Sabina, if you want to just share one more sentence to say bye to everyone.
I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you to everyone who attended. It means so much to us. It shows that what we're doing, it's a gift for us. And so you attending is a gift for us. And I want to thank everyone here. And I want to say a massive thank you to you, Brad and Misha, and the work that you're doing with Reimagine, which is so important. And I wish I had access to these resources back then. So big thank you. My heart is absolutely full.
Sabina, final.
Yeah, it's so beautiful to see all of your faces. I'm so grateful to have been, to be part of this community. We were doing the exercise, Julian and I, today. We were telling Brad, and I am realizing, Julian realizing that, this journey for us is our journey of courage, and the message that we want to convey is one that we needed. And as you said, Brad, it comes full circle. It's our journey, and then we give back. So I hope to see, I was just screenshotting those events because they look beautiful, and I hope to see some of you again wherever we cross our paths. So thank you so much. I leave with a full heart.
All right, full hearts. May our hearts be full, and may we all meet again on this path. Thank you so much for being here with us.